Hello everybody, welcome to another video. I am tuning in right now from Yosemite National Park in California, and I'm here in January because I'm on my way down the west coast over to Arizona, and I didn't really have any plans. My cat just sneezed in a really bubbly texture. I don't know if you heard that. She's fine, but that was a sound. Yeah, I didn't have plans for where I was gonna go on my way down. So I was like, National Park, Yosemite, never been there. I never felt particularly drawn here. I never was like, I really, really want to go there, you know? But I'm here and it's amazing. And I have a river out my window and I am pretty close to the park. And I'm gonna do a 6 mile hike tomorrow. It's gonna be 2,000 feet elevation gain, and I just got my ice spikes, and it's gonna be a sunny day, so I'm very much looking forward to that. But that's my little intro. I wanted to make this video because my spirit is like whispering to me to make it, even though my mind is like, I don't know how this is gonna go, what I'm gonna talk about, how it's gonna come out. But I guess where I'll start is by telling you about my dream. I had a dream last night that I broke a spiritual stronghold over my lineage that has been there my entire life. What do I mean when I say stronghold? I mean, to be honest, I don't know exactly what I mean, but let me do my best to explain. I watch a lot of Christian frameworked kind of videos that share spiritual, emotional, growth oriented anecdotes, and they use lots of phrases and terminology that, in the context of certain life experiences that I 1000% relate to. I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious, I'm not dogmatic by any means. I mean, maybe I would consider myself kind of religious. I appreciate religion, but I am not dogmatic, and whenever I speak, it always comes from my lived experience, and sometimes I reach for terms off of distant shelves because they fit my experience, not because I'm attaching to some idea that's outside of my experience, because when I speak, I want to be grounded. I want it to be tangible, and make sense. So, stronghold. I think that a stronghold is kind of similar to like an ancestral curse or an ancestral trauma, in the sense that it's this spirit, this intangible, emotional, maybe genetic predisposition or curse that travels through the ancestral lineage. If you like my stuff on my channel, then you probably are 99% likely that you're familiar with the term ancestral curses or generational trauma. And I think that a spiritual stronghold can take the form of ancestral trauma. So, and if you are the type of person who has broken ancestral trauma, broken cycles, and really observed the difference between the version of you that has broken the cycle and the version of you that was trapped in the cycle, you are undoubtedly going to notice physiological differences in your body. One very basic example is if you came from a lineage that silenced the truth or kept a lot of secrets or, taught you to hide a lot of things, and you broke that cycle by speaking the truth, that's a very relevant example for me, you might notice that you went from your physical throat feeling kind of constricted, or your voice coming out scratchy or hoarse, or it just wasn't flowing right fully, to feeling and sounding clear, and your vocal tone feeling like it supports your speaking. Am I making sense? I think I'm making sense. Okay, so that's just one example, and it's specific to me. So if you can relate to this by any means, you can take this and compare it to your life and see, what are some areas in my life where I feel like some emotional pattern or some, belief that I inherited from my parents or whatever is affecting my life somehow. And maybe that's a stronghold. Why is it a stronghold? Because it has a death grip over your life. Literally a death grip. It's a stronghold because it crept its way underneath your unconscious mind once upon a time and tricked your ego into thinking you were going to die if you were exposed to the very thing that stronghold teaches you to be afraid of. Am I making sense? So, and I don't know the religious definition. You know what? Let me just look it up here. Literally, according to Google, a spiritual stronghold is a deeply ingrained pattern of negative thinking, belief, or behavior that acts like a mental fortress, preventing someone from obeying God or living freely, often rooted in lies and deception. Exactly. And the most effed up thing is that some spiritual strongholds are reinforced by situations where acting out the thing that stronghold is telling you not to do put your life at risk. And the most basic blaring example I can think of is the witch trials. Like, once upon a time, a bunch of herbalist women were in touch with the spirits of nature and the power of their healing remedies, and they were burned for it once upon a time. So, maybe some of them survived. Maybe they survived by hiding, right? Hiding their gifts, turning off their intuition, turning off their connection with the natural world, with the spirits that they sensed. There's spirits in everything. Everything is animate. Everything has a soul. Everything has some form of consciousness, not at the same, layer or level, as humans, but everything vibrates. Everything has a frequency. So, again, rewinding, maybe once upon a time, a witch who survived the burnings, who did also practice herbalism, survived by hiding or being quiet, shutting her voice, or disconnecting from her prowess and her observational abilities or whatever. And maybe she had children. And the physiological, epigenetic conditions that her fear and trauma created inside of her, and that information, that cellular messaging, passed on to her children. So maybe her children grew up in a world where they were innately sensitive, innately psychic, innately in tune with nature and the natural world, innately gifted, deeply gifted, more than 90% of the people in their village, maybe. But because their mother was threatened by the lie that being in tune with nature, for example, or activating your gifts or using your voice is inherently wrong or dangerous, her children are going to carry that. And her children might start developing more immune susceptibility, immunocompromisation, is that the word? Maybe her children will develop, God forbid, a tumor around their esophagus, or issues with their sight, right? You're not allowed to perceive. It's not safe. So the body says it's not safe. So we're going to shut it down. We're going to shut down your sight because it's not safe. We're going to close your eyes. Maybe that child I don't know, whatever it is. Um, it's like their body was taught by these beliefs, that stronghold, that your connection to the divine is inherently dangerous. But it's not the connection that's dangerous. It is the vulnerability and the susceptibility to being preyed on by people out of alignment with God, by egos that are disproportionately active, disproportionately, activated, willpower that's disproportionately imbalancedly activated. When you are vulnerable and susceptible to willpower that is being used to serve the ego and the ego alone, especially a scared ego, that's dangerous. Lack of protection is dangerous. Connection with God is not dangerous. Being able to communicate with plants is not dangerous. It is lack of protection. It is disconnection is dangerous. So, that's an example of a spiritual stronghold. Anything that you carry that's, taking you further away from God, further away from divinity, further away from the truth. And I hope that makes sense, hope that's clear. So maybe I'll tell you about my dream now. So I had a dream. My sister was in it, my dearly departed sister. She committed suicide in 2015. She was 21 years old, and I was 17. And in my dream, we were in our childhood bedrooms, and dream logic is always different than like physical world logic. There's something might be your childhood home in a dream, but it has a different layout or different colors or whatever. Like dream logic does not work the same as physical 3D reality. Anyway, in the dream, we were in our childhood home, and even though in waking life our bedrooms were not next to each other on the same wall, they were across the hallway from each other. In the dream, they were right next to each other on the same wall. They shared a face of the house, and mine was right here, and hers was to the right of mine. And I could see through the wall, and I saw her window on the wall, and her window had this red and white gingham curtain on it, which is nothing like either of us even had growing up. But anyway, she had that, and the curtains started to get violently opened and closed, and because there was a spirit, there was like a demon ripping open and shutting the curtain rapidly. And in my dream, and I wonder if you're watching this and you've had a similar experience, please leave a comment and let me know. But I've had a lot of these dreams throughout my life. My sweet girl. And oh, sweet girl. That's the spot. That's the spot. That's the spot. Yes. Yeah, so there was like a demon messing with the curtains, and in my dream, which this has happened a lot, I started to say the Jewish prayer that most Jews are taught. It's the first prayer most Jews ever learn. It's called the Shema, and it goes Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And it's a prayer of protection, because I believe the translation is something like, it kind of neutralizes, negativity or evil, because it integrates everything into the unified light of God. So it kind of neutralizes, separation, and it's healing, it's protective. And I would have that sung to me like every night before going to sleep. And I, so I learned it, and I know it, and I pray it regularly whenever I feel like a disturbance in the energetic field, or I feel, other people's psychic energy that's like disturbing me, or I feel like, my spirit is like telling me that I'm being warned, or there's some energy that's, not pleasant that's happening outside. And I mean, some days I'm literally instructed by my spirit to kind of be cautious and stay inside. And you know what? I'm actually going to tell you this is valid. Real quick, going on a tangent, if you ever feel that, and you know, if you have the gift of discernment and you're able to, you know, I think discernment can be cultivated, but regardless, it is a gift. And if you can know how to wield it, then you will know the difference between like legitimate intuitive information and, you know, trauma. It's something that requires discernment, but if you are able to discern the difference, then, you know, good for you. But anyway, I sometimes, it does not happen often, and it really depends where I am. But I mean, there's one time I woke up feeling like this sense of like urgency, and, you know, something is like there's crime is happening out in the town and where I was living. And I think like the day before that, or maybe that day later, I went to like the grocery store, and I actually crossed paths with someone in the grocery store who literally stole some stuff in the middle of the store. And he was like trying to steal something, but I walked right past him before he was about to do it, and we had like a weird exchange because I was trying to stand at the shelf that he was blocking, and I was like, oh, go ahead, because he had like a wheelchair, or like one of those automatic things, and he was wearing a freaky weird mask like in the store, like, and it was just weird. And I was just like, okay, I just stood there and was like looking at the shelf because I was looking for, I think, like a certain medicine, and he just kind of froze there and was like talking to himself, and it was weird. And then I walked past him and to, you know, keep looking at that same shelf, but behind him, and then I see him open his jacket and shove some boxes in his jacket and then wheel away. And then I saw a minute later the security guards all like gather by the door and like look out and talk or whatever. I think they you know, saw he was suspicious too, but he stole something. And what was it, I think that same day, I think there was like a car accident or something else. But this literally happens where I will feel, my sweet angel girl, I will feel a bad energy, and then something will happen that day. Another example, I was living by myself in New York, and I woke up in the middle of the night after having a dream that these people were about to rob my house. They were stalking my house, and I woke up in a full-on, you know, panic attack, heart racing. When I was, you know, in relationship with my mom, I called her, and I just wanted a human being on the phone. And then the next day, found out that night, at that time, a mile away from my house, there was a robbery at knife point at a hotel in my super, super safe neighborhood. The crime rate is like non-existent in the neighborhood. But that happened that night. And then also, you know, fast forward again to this previous example, the day I went out and saw the guy stole something, and then it was something with the traffic. Someone did something dangerous in the road or something. I forget what it was. Or no, I went to a grocery store, and one of the employees was like having a rage fit. It was actually scary. He was raging, and I could like feel the violent energy, and I'm like, I don't want to get near this person. Like, if you lack the composure to not flip your shit and throw stuff and bang stuff and like damage like store property, then like what are you even doing working? Why are you in the public like this? Because it was not appropriate and did not make me feel safe. And anyway, so, you know, there was bad energy out that day, and I was warned about it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that someone was going to break things in the grocery store, and I didn't know someone was going to steal things in another grocery store. I just felt a warning. I felt an unease. I woke up feeling like, it's almost like when you look out a window and you see a tornado in the distance, and your body signals to you that I'm safe right here, but do not go that way. because there's literally a dangerous storm vortex over there, so don't go that way. That's what my body told me that morning. And then I looked up crimes in the area that day, and sure enough, there was some crimes. I forget what it was. There was some like domestic violence thing happening outside of a store, like on the streets or something, like in the downtown area, which is like also like a mile away from where I was living. There was some kind of, criminal activity, and I felt it. There was something moving in the air that day. So, anyway, forget where I was going with that, but I'll just go back to my dream. So the curtains were ripping back and forth, and let me actually just collect my thoughts here. So I don't remember what my tangent was for, but maybe I will. But anyway, curtains. I was saying the Shema, and I was in my room watching my sister's curtains go crazy, and when I was saying the Shema, my mouth wouldn't open. It was like forced shut by some spirit, by something. And my voice wasn't coming out. My prayer wasn't coming out. So I literally put my fingers in my mouth and pried my mouth open. I opened up my lips. And I forced with every ounce in me just to speak. You know, sometimes in dreams you can't speak, you can't yell, you try to scream and nothing comes out. I don't know if you have those dreams. I know some people have those dreams. I don't know who I'm talking to exactly here watching this video, but that happened. And in my dream, I was just praying so hard. I was using every ounce of my willpower to get this prayer out, because I knew that I had authority over this demon, over this spirit, this negative spirit. And I prayed, and I said, like, I banish you from my sister's room. I banish you from our life. I banish you from our home, from my sister. Stop messing with us. Stop messing with her curtains. And then it stopped. It stopped. But it took a fight. It took a hell of a fight. And so I have no idea why I wanted to share this dream. I think maybe, I don't know, there's something in here for someone. But maybe if you are, sensitive or aware to the reality of a version of your life or yourself, or, your spirit, the expression of your spirit that's not really fully embodied yet. And you kind of feel the space between you and that. I just want to remind you, to keep your faith, to keep praying, really. And really what I want to tell you is to keep, to ground yourself in your spiritual authority. And what the hell do I mean? How the hell are you supposed to even do that? Well, I'll tell you how. So, first, I want you to identify one thing in your life that is stealing your power. Is it a person, a relationship? Is it a belief? Is it something that you think you're not allowed to have, but in your soul you need it and you crave it? Is it an emotional need? Is it a physical need? Or is it a dream that you have? Is it a vision that you have for your life, yourself, your success, your voice, your body, whatever it is? But maybe when you're walking towards it, people judge you, people put you down, or, maybe you're trying to learn a new skill and you're trying to find a teacher, but every teacher you find makes you feel worse about yourself. They don't support your path. They don't encourage your skill level. They don't meet you where you're at. They just put you down, or, there's just not a match somehow. Whatever external forces are creating more resistance for the part of your soul that's trying to get towards the thing that it knows belongs to it. How to collect my thoughts there again. But that could be a spiritual stronghold reflected on the outside. And what is it? I started reading a book called Undreaming Wetiko. I don't know how to pronounce it. But there was a really brilliant line in there somewhere, and it was like, the more we forget God in every area of life, the more the outside world will manifest in ways that forces us to wake up. And sometimes that manifests in ways that feel like resistance or feel like demons, because it needs to put that negative oppositional energy out in our faces for us to wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up, okay? I know a lot of people are very afraid of, demons or negative energy or whatever, but when I say demons, when I say negative energy, let me demystify that. I mean a projection of disconnection from God. That's it. That is it. Think about what your imagination did as a kid when you would go to bed and you were afraid of total darkness, right? You would see things because you're afraid. But if you weren't afraid, you would feel peace. And it's fear. It's fear. It is just fear that casts demons into the world, into psychic. It's like, how do I even give this to you that in a bite that you can just like eat and like, oh, I get it. Oh, I taste it. Oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. But I've like, from every different animistic or religious path, there's a frameworks in every religious tradition for this condition of how ego-rooted fear manifests and literally creates demonic influences. That's it. That is literally it. It's not something that we don't have control over. We were born with spiritual authority, okay? We were born with command. So if there's something that we are afraid of or that is, robbing our life force, it's because there's a protection in our psychic protection, spiritual protection that forgot how to be strong, how to be itself. Does that make sense? When you say the Shema prayer, for example, and you mean it, you embody it. When you intend something, kavana, intention, prayer, it's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a felt, embodied sense. And if you don't know how to feel protection, then you won't be protected. And no one can teach you how to feel it if they're trying to teach you in a way that doesn't resonate with you. You need to find your own way. You need to connect with it however you can. For me, I know I'm protected because it's something I know. It's something that it makes sense. In my scientific mind, it just makes sense. If I know that I have spiritual authority, and if something tries to come in and mess with me in the outside world, a trickster spirit or, a negative belief trying to catch up with me or take advantage of some weak spot in my ego or in my mind, and I know my authority, I can recognize it. It's like having predator instincts. Like spiritual protection is like being a predator of darkness. And the light is the best predator because it penetrates everything. It penetrates everything. The light does. But you know what? We live in a dense 3D world where shadows are cast by matter, and so spiritually we experience that. It echoes in our psyches. So, if you're experiencing a stronghold where your soul is destined for greatness, you're destined to create a familial legacy that maybe you weren't born into. Maybe you had a shit family. Maybe you were dealt shitty cards, early in life. But your heart craves and desires, something more ideal, something more harmonious. That's a promise. Why do you even want that? Because you are born to be that. And why is it harder for you than maybe for other people who it seems like they have it handed to them? Well, everyone has their own struggles, but it's because you have you have a greater access to your own spiritual authority. You know that better than the people who didn't have to go through the same trials as you did. And if you're stuck, if you feel stuck, if you feel trapped, you're not. You're not. You are not. Although maybe you are. Maybe you are. That's a nuanced thing, because some people are genuinely held hostage against their will, against their lives, and that is real, and I do not want to erase that. But if you're not in physical immediate danger or immediate, psychological danger, of moving forward, of stepping into further alignment, then you're not stuck. This one is a really, really tricky one, because this is where, being trauma informed needs to come in, because I want to be really careful when I teach this stuff, when I talk about this stuff, because I, am an abuse survivor, and there were times in my life where I was not safe psychologically or physically to act in alignment with the person that I am today. Why? Because it would have compromised my survival needs. I just did not have the capacity in my nervous system to decide, yeah, I'm going to tell the truth, even though I know the consequences that I'll wind up in an orphanage. But I chose to remain externally complicit with the abuse that I grew up receiving from my mom. I chose that instead of telling authorities the truth of how she was treating me, because it would have taken me away from the financial support that she gave me. I wouldn't have been able to horseback ride, probably. I wouldn't have been able to use all my art supplies. I would be separated from my cat. I would not have my same friends. You know what I mean? So in that situation, it was safer for me to remain silent about the specific abuses that if I were to speak out loud, it would have changed my life, in a way that I was not willing to embrace. So let's see here. Let me recollect my thoughts again. So that's basically it. That's the story of how I broke a spiritual stronghold in my dream last night. And it felt like a fight. It felt like pushing against every demonic force that ever shut my mouth or shut my throat or shut my voice, which has been a consistent theme throughout my entire life. And I've had dreams like this before where I couldn't scream and I was being swallowed by by negative entities, energies. And I would have like hypnagogic, hypnopompic, hallucinations, which, or demons, whatever. Honestly, it's all the same shit, but it depends on what lens that you're looking at it through. I am a holistic, shamanistic minded, perceiving person. Everything is holistic to me. Everything is spiritual, even in the physical. And so I don't separate the mind and the body, the soul. They're together. They operate together. Yes, a psychological traumatic condition is also, in my experience, in my observations, and the way that my mind makes sense and the way that resonates for my soul, is that, yes, an emotional trauma is spiritual. There is a spirit, the spirit of that trauma, the spirit of that disconnection, psychic fragmentation. Like, parts work therapy is a kind of, psychological healing therapy that is pretty shamanic. It's pretty freaking shamanic, because you literally are talking to different parts of yourself as if they're outside of you. It's like you're talking to another person. If you've gone through severe trauma and you experience chronic dissociation or whatever, and you do parts work therapy and you start to have a relationship with the part of you that you're dissociated from, that is shamanic as fuck. But the whole, modern medical institution, Western thinking, says, it's just parts work therapy. It's purely psychological. It's not spiritual at all. Actually, that's not holistic enough. It's not complete. You know what I mean? The Western frameworks never satisfied me, because the Western frameworks say that this is this and that's it, and there's no further questioning, there's no further analysis, there's no further discourse, there's no further experience. But my experience says I still have questions. I still am wondering so heavily about this and this and this and the connections between this and this, and there's a spiritual component to it. There's a transcendental component to everything, So when I say spiritual strongholds, it's just, take it if it's useful for you, but it's just a perspective that, for me, as someone who has endured shit that should have killed me multiple times, it's grounding as fuck for me. Because how the hell is someone supposed to continue wanting to even survive and wanting to live after, trying to be killed from multiple angles? Multiple different things tried to kill me. And stripped my sovereignty, my autonomy. I have been attacked from multiple different angles my entire life. Growing up with a narcissistic mom, almost being trafficked by a predator, being sent to the troubled teen institution, the trauma, the grief, the loss that I endured throughout my entire, life in those phases, but my own mom threatening to kill me and send me away, and then finally sending me away. I first got threatened to be sent away when I was 8 years old. What 8-year-old, recovers in a household, in a childhood, when they're afraid for their lives, right? So this is what the stronghold, this is what identifying my experiences with the idea of it being a spiritual stronghold, that's where I can make more sense and feel more grounded and feel more in control and in power, because it just makes things make sense. And then that's another thing too with trauma survivors. The thing about trauma is that it's a trauma because it strips you of your power. It possesses you, it controls you, it renders you vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, you don't have control of yourself. It's fucking scary. When you are vulnerable, when you are actively experiencing the trauma, it's like life is just threatening, when you're in it. And what I mean when I say that is, for example, in the troubled teen institution, go watch my video on this, but I had no fucking privacy in the bathroom for 10 months. Could you imagine what that does psychologically and physically to a person? Watch the video. Telling the truth at home, saying how I felt. I would get abused. I would get either physically pushed away, sometimes pushed on the floor, or berated for having a fucking emotion, So that's a stronghold. That the belief that I'm not allowed to have privacy is a stronghold. The belief that, and the somatic memory of that's a stronghold. The after effects of trauma, the residual, the trauma adaptations, those are strongholds. They are not the truth. They are not aligned with God's will for us, which I am stepping into. The freedom that I live in my life right now is greater than I've ever experienced, because I have done the fucking work on discarding the strongholds and acting in faith. It requires faith. It requires trusting that the divine and God operates under a completely different set of laws than your abusers do. And it breaking the strongholds requires faith. Look at my dream, for example. I prayed with faith for this spirit to stop fucking with my sister, with my house, with my space, and it did. It tried to keep my mouth shut. No, I pried my mouth open. It tried to snuff my voice. I exerted my will even stronger. And I didn't shut up. I didn't stop. And the curtains, they stopped going crazy. So what did that do? It closed the loop in my soul, from God to my soul to my body. It closed the loop that said, Aleah, you are your own sovereign spiritual authority. God's will, God's power, God's protection can work through me. God's hand is on you too. God's hand is there. Just take it. Take it and walk. Fall as many fucking times as you need to fall, okay? Pardon my crude language, but I am so adamant about this because, like I said, I should have died. If I became what I was put through, you would not see me here. You would not see me here. I cannot stress to you enough how fucking important it is to get over the stupid little lies in your head that tell you that you're not powerful, that you're not worth being loved, that you should be afraid of speaking up if you're not in immediate physical or psychological danger of doing so. And you know what? What even is psychological danger? Is it genuine? Are you physically trapped somewhere? Are you actually trapped? Are you like in shackles against your will? Or are you just afraid to step out on a leap of faith? Or have you not reached your breaking point yet? Because that's the thing too. Just don't delude yourself. Don't delude yourself. Act in faith. Let this be your encouragement. Act in faith. I feel so much conviction about this, and I pray that the strongholds over your mind and your life break. Let them break. Let them die. If you're ready for it and you want it somewhere in you, let them die. Let this be a prayer that any strongholds over your life break, and you have support from the outside, and you hear exactly what you need to hear to empower you to get forward, to go into where your soul is called to be by God. That is my prayer for you. And with that, I'm going to end this. That's all I got. Wasn't expecting this to go where it went. I had no idea what I was even going to talk about in this video. I just came in with this little whisper, make the video, and then I started feeling this conviction. I'm just like, the strongholds need to fucking break. You're tired of this shit. You're sick of this. You're sick of feeling like a little toy tumbling around in a washing machine helplessly. Like, let that cycle fucking stop so you can escape and go be free and go find a new rhythm. And it's not going to feel straightforward all the time, because it's like, if you've been out at sea, like, I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise or gone surfing or paddleboarding or kayaking or swam in the ocean for a long time, but when you come back on land, it's like you can still feel the waves in your body. Sometimes, I don't know, I love that feeling personally, but breaking strongholds is the same way, and growing, it's the same way. You're going to feel the echoes of the literal vibration, the frequency that was once passing through your body, because your body allowed it through. But when your discernment kicks in and you break the stronghold, break it, then when it comes back to you, your discernment is going to be automatic, and it's going to say, that's an intruder, kick it to the curb. And you might see things outside. You might see that energy manifest outside of you, because it can't touch you. It's a frequency, it's a vibration. Now that it can no longer pass through you, it's going to find anything around you that it can pass through. So when you start to experience these changes in your life or heal from these traumas, you're probably going to continue to see them outside of you here and there. But you're going to have a different internal response or reaction to them, because they can no longer be metabolized in your body through your flesh. And that's the thing about having a nervous system. We transmute, karma and vibrations through our nervous system. When our nervous systems become refined, protected, reinforced enough so that these traumas and these negative frequencies can't penetrate our nervous systems, then we start to live in a different reality, and that energy goes wherever else it goes. It just goes off into the void, into the 0 point, into wherever it goes. And we become conduits for, for more protection, more love, more integrity, more connection, more clarity. I hope this is making sense. I know it's making sense. It's just the right people are going to understand. And if you don't understand and you want to understand, leave a comment. But if you don't understand and you have shit to talk, then literally go fuck yourself. Get out of here, please. Because I will stand my ground and reply to your comment if you have something to say that, is judgmental or in any kind of way. Because I believe in what I'm doing here, and if you don't agree with it, it's not a matter of perspective. This is my experience, and I'm not asking anyone to agree with this. Respectfully go the other way if you don't get it. You don't have to get it. This is only for the people who do understand it. It's an experience. It's don't judge people for sharing experiences that you don't understand, You just go live your life, and maybe one day you'll come back here and understand what I'm saying. But some people are just, I've been getting more visibility on specifically Instagram, and I've gotten a handful of really arrogant bullshit comments, and I'm like, what the fuck is your people are often they feel threatened by clarity, by other people's clarity, because it challenges their entire worldview. And when you sit there in your own authority, in your spiritual authority, your sovereignty, and you speak from a place of clarity, it threatens egos who are only playing the game to protect themselves and to reinforce their beliefs or ideas or conditions of how the world is supposed to be. But as soon as someone comes in and shakes that up, they look at you like you're the villain. But you're not the villain, you just have clarity. You're just perceptive. You just see things that they're not ready to see. And they try to hide behind the guise of thinking or projecting or assuming that it's not even an assumption, it's a straight up projection that what you're sharing is a matter of perspective. It's not a fucking matter of perspective. It's a truth. It's a lived experience. There's a difference between perceiving something from your own lens and the laws of nature, the reality of it. And whether you like it or not, some things are true. And I mean, I'm certain that there's some things that I'm uncomfortable with because I haven't integrated them yet. I'm not enlightened by any means. So some things might challenge me or my ways of living, my beliefs, and you know what? That's part of the walk, baby, So I'm going to leave this here. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I am offering aura scan readings right now. They're 2-hour deep dive sessions where I will mirror your field and what I psychically perceive, energetically perceive around your field, and I will reflect what I see about the relationship that your body, yourself, has with different energies that are at play in your field and different soul gifts that you have. It's just intuition. I'm just reading the energetic patterns and dynamics that I sense in your field, and I see them visually and I draw them, and you will get the physical drawing mailed to you if you would like it to, or I can keep it, and you get follow-up text integration access to me after our session. If that sounds like something that you're interested or curious about, send me a message here or on Instagram at Rustic Peach, and we can have a conversation. My inbox is open always for video topic suggestions like this, or to explore how I can support you one-on-one. There's no pressure, just putting it out there in case anyone is interested. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye bye.